Welcome to the Key of Life podcast, a show where we explore the limitless creative potential that exists within our human life. From birth to death, ancestry, and everything in between, every human holds a key that opens a door of possibility to create, sustain, and transform within ourselves and with others. When we share our keys, we create deeper access to the keys within ourselves and open the doors of remembrance within others. I'm your gatekeeper and guide, NinNeru'aEl Key Hog. Let's open the door together. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Key of Life podcast. Today we have Meghan, which you'll hear her lovely voice again further along in the podcast. So the concept for this particular episode, So the it was a little electronic update thingy that popped up. But the concept for this was me and Meghan were at a cafe and I was talking to her about the podcast, and it was actually her idea to do this style of an episode where she basically just asks me questions about the podcast, and then you guys get to know a little bit about what it's about too. Instead of me just rambling on and on, I feel like this is a really good way to do it and get real life questions answered about it. So thank you so much, Meghan, for suggesting this and offering this, and welcome.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. I love when our conversations just reveal exactly what we can do together. And I'm so excited. I'm just excited to learn more about all of your intentions for this podcast as well, and your work in general. I feel like it's obviously going to be one of these things where you're putting a bunch of things together and wanting to explore a bunch of things. So
Yeah, so briefly introduce yourself, because they won't hear your full intro until probably later on in the podcast, so they get a gauge of who you are.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Meghan Persephone Taylor. I am a woman, a mother, an artist, a weaver, and a writer, and a dreamer of all things. And I've been working for the past few years on this very elaborate project where I've been trying to retell my birth story, essentially. And it's the story of my conscious conception journey, and it has become just a whole expression of kind of translating our experiences into the actual work that we do in the world. So I'm kind of walking this fine line of being an artist, but just integrating everything that I actually want to do in my life with my actual life. And that's where I'm at right now. I feel very aligned with NinNeru'aEl as she I always feel inspired by you, because you're out there doing the good work, and
So are you.
Well, my process is just it's been very internal, or I work through things on my own, or in a little studio, as a kind of more this artist way. But I'm really excited to be moving out into the world, and so to just be able to have you as an ally and a sister is really inspiring. And I'm just so grateful for that.
I'm grateful for that too. Yeah.
Okay, so my very first question is just about the name itself. So if you want to talk about where it came from and what it means to you, I'm so curious.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so Key of Life is, firstly, Key is my middle name. My full name is NinNeru'aEl Key Hog. My first name, NinNeru'aEl, means the creator of light, and then Key, in my parents' spiritual practice, the name Key is the name of the Mother of Earth. So, and it's also chi, in Chinese traditional medicine, the energy, life force energy, right? So I kind of did a little play on words with it, Key of Life, it's a triple play on words, actually. So Key of Life, me, middle name, the Mother of Earth, so the Mother of Life, and then Chi, the energy of life, the literal life force energy of life. And then key, as in like key for unlocking a door, like a
Right.
portal to walk through and experience like a completely new world for yourself. So I guess that's sort of like the name. Like you can make chi like your energy force. You can make chi or ki like the mother, like the divine mother energy, or you can make ki um chi whatever, unlocking doors and yeah. I don't know if I mentioned all of it already, but I feel like I'm repeating myself. That is the name. That's the name explanation for that. So,
It's brilliant. It's so good. And
thank
it's even
you.
it's all kind of almost like fourfold because it is your name. Like in the end,
Yeah. Oh my God,
yeah,
that's so
it's based
true.
on you.
Yeah. Yeah. It is my name, and I believe that names hold so much potency, as we were like sort of speaking to before this too, and we were talking about your name that you go by on the interwebs slash like whatever business world, quote unquote.
Mhm.
But yeah, names hold so much potency, and it's really important that, in my opinion, that names have meaning, and it's like really the mantra that you're called or people call you your whole entire life. So it's really important that that mantra be, you know, powerful.
Agreed. Yeah, names are something that I love talking about in the framework of conscious conception too, because I think it could be the first thing that kind of comes to you and is the first invitation into conscious conception.
Mhm.
Because it can be so symbolic of so many things and be a literal symbol um, I have a friend the other day who mentioned ivy has been coming through for her,
Mhm.
and so she's seeing a lot of ivy. Like there's just these ways that names reflect themselves and then help us like follow along with these clues and things, which of course is just
Mhm.
that's going to be true about our name that we carry for our entire life. And so then, of course,
Mhm.
when we get to make up the name for our children or for our projects, then to me that is such a task, such a like a sacred task.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Thank you for that question. I
Wonderful.
don't often get to talk about it.
Yeah, totally. Um, okay, so based on that, so obviously like
Mhm.
that sounds like there's a lot of different threads. And what do you think is inspiring you the most to pursue kind of braiding all of those things together? Like what has been the guiding force of making
Ooh,
that your work?
good question. I feel like just my entire life has been like a play on all of those things, like a play on interacting with the literal life force energy of the earth and like the energy of the divine mother and like womanhood in general, and also like the key aspect of like unlocking like portals and gates and new worlds for myself and for other people. To like speak more to that, I had like a I feel like I had a pretty different upbringing than most other people, like I guess like my age, or I don't even know, most other people, in the sense where I really grew up with all of these spiritual practices that are now becoming more front and center. Like
Mm,
I lived with that from childhood to like all throughout my life, just based off of the spiritual community that my parents are part of. So like I always grew up knowing about like, like the stars and like alien origins and like different mantras and meditations and different ways of cleansing with smoke and with chanting and all of that stuff. Like I just always grew up with it. And there was a point in my life, like as I was a kid, because obviously some of this information is like the information that the higher ups don't want you to know, quote unquote, or whatever. So it was a lot of, from my mom specifically, telling me that, like, hey, you can't share all of this stuff that you know about stuff because people are going to hold you back in school, like people are going to like basically come for you. So it was a lot of, for me, like holding all of like the stuff that I knew inside of me and not really getting to speak about it with a lot of people until like I think I was about like 19 or 20 or whatever when I really started to like break out of my shell with that type of stuff and like talking about all the information that I know and whatever. And I
Wow.
noticed that like other people that I would talk to that are getting into it too, it's like my perspective, like obviously everyone's perspective is different on things, you know, but like I felt like I had a different perspective to even interact with them about the topics that we were talking about. And I like could feel myself like unlocking doors for themselves and also for myself, and now learning, okay, like communicating these ideas, and then it opens up more possibilities in my brain about stuff that could be, and like even more information, like how channeling works, if you will, or whatever. Like the more you like release is the more that you receive. Like I won't even say like channeling, how energy works and flows in general, you know. So it's like once I was speaking about like stuff like this that I've been holding on for so long, it's like more and more of the stuff came through for me. And I think that's like really the concept of this podcast for me. I don't know if I've sent you the intro for it, but in the intro, I put that um, we're exploring everything from like, I forget exactly what I said now, but like from like, for lack of a better term, from like the elementals to like ancestry and beyond and blah 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 blah. And then I also mentioned that every person is a key that unlocks a portal of transformation, a portal of a new world, for other people and both and for themselves, right? And our stories are the bridge to do this with each other. So the concept of the podcast is basically like sharing stories and information, like information through stories of real people that help to unlock those different gates and portals, if you may, or if you will, within other people, right? Like opening up and shifting like the paradigms in people's minds through stories. And that is the key of life, right? Like that's
Wow.
literally like that's breaking the code of life, is sharing and receiving information and evolving together through wisdom and experience sharing and inspiration. Like when you hear people's stories about certain things, it then inspires you to go out and like do something either similar or like different but the same or whatever, to then unlock that experience that they got from that thing that they shared with you, like within yourself. And then that creates transformation in you, and then that ripples out towards whoever else comes into contact with you or interact with you, or whoever else you share your story of doing that thing with too. And that's really, I think, what it is, in terms of that.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I'm so happy I asked that question. that's that's just amazing. I haven't known that part of your history and
Hmm.
that kind of like depth. So I'm curious now too, is there still any conflicts within you about bridging these two worlds? Like, is there any conflict with your family or like, do you feel a resistance because you were told in the past not to share these
Oh,
things, or are you
oh
still being
no.
told? Yeah.
Uh, I don't feel any resistance from my family for this stuff. Like my dad wouldn't wouldn't care that he's probably happy that I'm sharing it. My mom's a little bit more like, oh, you need to be more hush hush with the information and blah 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 blah. But I don't feel any resistance like from that end anyway, and I think she knows that I'm doing it in my own way.
Hmm.
That there's a way that it's like if you want to dive in more specifically with the particular like spiritual sect that my specifically my mom. My dad doesn't really kiki in those waters anymore, but specifically my mom still does. Like, you can go and explore that for yourself, but I'm just sharing from my own lived experience and my perspective based off of like all the stuff that I know to be true from how I've lived and like the inspirations and the epiphany moments of my entire life. So it really isn't even like I'm sharing specific details on how to do XYZ thing and the whatever. It's like I'm really just sharing from like myself and my lived experience. So it's not like I'm divulging anything quote unquote that I shouldn't be divulging or
Right.
whatever. Um so yeah, in short, no. I don't really feel any resistance toward that at this point. I think my
I
parents
think
understand that I'm going to do what I'm going to do regardless.
yeah. It's amazing. I
But
mean, sometimes it is like even a subconscious like wound or whatever that we need to
mhm.
get over before, like, even if we know it's in alignment or we know that it's now our truth to share, there can still be this
Mhm.
kind of like, yeah, fear conditioning that we have to get
Yeah.
over. But so that's, I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it just seems like there's still a level of courage, or just to share our truth in
Mhm.
general, to me is always an act of courage. So
Yeah, I feel like for everyone sharing your truth is like an act of courage cuz it shows people who you are, you know? It like
hmm
really it leaves you vulnerable, you know, for lack of a better term. And vulnerability I don't think is anything that's necessarily bad or good, you know? Like vulnerability just is vulnerability and it's just a feeling and a sensation in your body. But ultimately after that, you know, you can choose to feel free after letting that stuff go and letting it out of your body and speaking your truth. And it feels a lot better to speak your truth than to withhold, which like I've come to realize too through living my life. So I think this podcast is a testament to that as well, because I've literally been thinking about doing a podcast for years, like years. But and then I finally just said, you know what, like I'm just gonna do it. Like I got gifted this mic and this little pop filter from a friend who was moving. Like she just let me rummage through her stuff and take what I wanted. And like there was this mic. I was like, okay, I have literally the whole setup to be doing this. Like, what the fuck am I doing not doing it? So
right.
I just chose to just invite someone to like I record an episode and be like, you know what? Let's just do it. We're gonna do it, and that's what it's gonna be. So here
Yeah,
it is.
amazing. Yeah, and then it just, yeah, I absolutely, like, I've always recognized since the first time that we met that conversations with you, like they flow in this like sometimes very magical way. Like things do
Mhm.
seem to lead one thing to the next, and like we're both like reflecting back to each other and like realizing different things, and it just,
Mhm.
it's so awesome because you can, it's such a completely different experience than talking to other people sometimes.
Thank you. Thank
Like,
you. I feel the same
yeah.
way about our chats. Yeah, I feel the same way about you too. You have a way of like asking questions and like reflecting back that like brings it to that level too. So, yeah. I don't want to make this a like only me thing. Like you definitely have the same within you.
Well, it's like it's such a dance, right? Like that's such a relationship. I'm
Mhm.
trying to think back to the actual conversation we were having in the cafe because it was such a good one when were thinking of doing that, or doing this
Yeah.
together. I feel like
I think
we were
mhm.
we were talking about the like the portal aspect. So you were
Oh
quoting this
yeah.
key, yeah, like the key as in a portal or a unlocking sense.
Mhm.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit more, of like opening portals for others to step through? Do you find that that's going to be the people that you're inviting onto your podcast are people that you mm, like their work to you represents a portal, or is it even like beyond that, through these conversations that you're having with people it's like a portal in and of itself?
I think it's both. I think it's very much both. I think the conversations are definitely a portal in and of itself that people can choose. Like me and the guests are both hold the keys and are unlocking this like picture this golden gate. And then me and the guest are unlocking this golden gate on each side and opening the doors, right? So we're opening the doors And then within the doors of the gate, like the air, like the space beyond the gate, is exists the conversation that we're having together. And the door is open while we're having this conversation for whoever is in resonance with receiving and like coming into this information to walk through and engage with this conversation, which is a portal in and of itself. And then from there, they can choose to open another gate, like within that portal that leads to another space, right? It's the same way that, like, when we have conversations, as we were talking about before, it's like we talk about one thing and then that one thing reminds us of another thing. That's like another portal, another gate opening, right? And then when we go through that thing that it's reminding us of, and then we go through that portal and then it creates another portal and it's like another like pocket of energy and information that's opening up. And then from there it's like, oh, like other bells ring, you know, and it's like this continuous spiral and like opening and closing, like oscillation thing that's happening. Like expansion and contraction of learning and wisdom and experience and sharing. So that's really what I envision that aspect of it as.
Stunning. I wish everyone could see the gestures that you activate
Oh
as
yeah.
well. This is
Yeah.
a GIF cover of your podcast.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Video part to this podcast soon come.
Yeah.
For sure. Soon come. I'm setting up the room to be able to do that so it's like more aesthetically pleasing and whatever in the background. But yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
Wow. Well, so who else have you been talking to, or like what other themes have been the ones that you've known, okay, these are going to be the like first few conversations to explore these first portals, or even like get yourself going with this work?
Yeah. Yeah, so I definitely had a few people in mind, like initially, that I wanted to speak with, and mainly they're like my homies who I already have these sort of discussions with, like about cool shit that they're like is their bag. And by like their bag I mean like the stuff that they're really good at and into and practice in their day-to-day life is like their bag, right? So like just speaking with people that I'm inspired by and who inspire me, and like the people that I'm close with in my life that are doing cool shit, has always been like my inspiration. Cuz I've noticed in my personal life like I have the ability to like connect people that are like into like similar things and whatever. And like when I'm like become friends with people and introduce them to other people, it's like, oh wow, like you know XYZ and XYZ person, like whoa, you like know a lot of cool people. I'm just like, I mean, yeah, like a lot of people are cool. You just got to talk to them about what they're interested in to get to know them, you know? And through doing that and talking to them about what they're like interested in and what they're passionate about, what they do in the world, it's like you see how the collaboration can be possible. And so it's like those people that I'm like deeply inspired by and deeply connect with are the first few people that I wanted to invite on the show. And one of them was you, and talking about conscious conception and your weaving. And just, I think the way that I even am like, oh my gosh, yes, come on the podcast and talk to me, is like I'll be talking with someone and they speak to something that is super inspiring, like, and brings this like heart fluttery bell inside of my body, to where I'm like, the whole world needs to know about this, you know? And like it's those moments where I'm like, yeah, we need to talk about this and we need to let the whole world know that this exists. So I think that's my main one. And like specifically for you with your story with Lewin, and even like the weaving aspect of it, and just like the way, I feel like the way that you like even create is like this whole weaving, like I really see it as that, and like all of the little threads like just sinking into place. And I just find that so fucking cool and awesome, and like how it can translate from like every aspect of life. And that's why I was like, no, like I need to have Meghan on the show to talk about conscious conception and weaving. I need to have my friend Tashna on the show, who is like the woman who completely redeveloped my like brand for my birth stuff. Like she made my logo, she made my like color palette. She's just such a fucking gifted like design woman. Like she's just very in tune with that world. Like I and the conversations that I've had with her about like design and like her perspective on even like sound and stuff like that, because she's a very multifaceted, like she designs on every level. So I wanted to have her on the show to talk about botanical dyeing and natural fibers and materials and the importance of that. um, I wanted to have my friend Reem on the podcast, who's an osteopath and a mom, and if like she free birth her babies and everything like that, and she's just so full of knowledge and wisdom and this new way of like approaching health and body work. Like all of these inspiring women that are just doing cool freaking shit in the world is who I want to speak to on the show. Mainly, like I keep saying it and like wrapping back around, and there's obviously more guests, but those are like the three that I'm mentioning right now. I don't want to like get into like literally everyone who's gonna be on the show and whatnot right now, but all in all, just women that I find inspiring that are doing really fucking cool shit in the world, and that I feel and know that everyone on the fucking face of the planet should know about what they're doing, and that what they're doing even fucking exists as something that's possible. So,
Oh my gosh, yeah, I
yeah.
love that. I think that that's so amazing. I think it's like such an important time for this type of, like you said, I'll just use your continue the weaving metaphor, like weaving all of
Mhm.
these maybe parts of things that for other people seem completely separate, like this is a separate health modality and this is over here, like or how birth is over here and then art is over here and sound is over here. But then there are people that can absolutely see how all of those things are actually talking about the exact same thing. And so
Yeah.
having a platform like a podcast where you can be the one to kind of be curating and like walking people through how all of these things are absolutely connected, like that even to me is weaving. It's like weaving all of these stories to
Mhm.
kind of like come through with something that like yeah, somehow makes more sense, or like you have a clearer image now of how all of these things are actually connected. And I think that totally makes sense with finding the people that are inspiring you the most, because even that could already be a similar thread, you know, like we are
Mhm.
women who've been following similar if not the same threads in all of our unique ways,
Yeah.
through osteopathy, through design, through conscious conception, but it's been
Mhm.
the same thread. And maybe that's the key, like maybe that's this,
Literally.
like what
It's
what
the
you're
key of
talking about.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the closer we're all getting to this thing, like the more similar and more unique it gets, like this like beautiful paradox of it's going to be
Mhm.
uniquely yours, but then like oh my gosh, like coming in like total alignment and resonance with the same thing that we're now realizing is this like something. And I love
Mhm.
getting to those like root things too, because like we don't know what are we talking about, what is a thing that's like inspiring versus not inspiring, you know, but like
Mhm.
we know the difference.
Yeah.
And I think that's the like when we talk about truth, that's what we're talking about. Like
Mhm.
some things are true and some are not.
Yeah, and then another point that what you're speaking to is really making present for me is that like until you really share your story about something, you don't realize how many similarities of an experience someone else has, and it could be like a completely different experience of like, for example, like you're talking about like I had a conversation yesterday with this woman Kelsey, who's going on the or is on the podcast talking about sexual assault recovery, and she talks about cliff jumping, right? And how she loves to cliff jump because it creates that like excitement and that movement in her body. that like exhilaration, right? So like you can be talking about something like that, like cliff jumping to someone who's never cliff jumped before. Like I've never cliff jumped before, but I can create like a like I can understand where she's coming from and create like a similar sensation in my body based off of something that gives me what she's describing that I already do in my life. You know, like I really like biking, like off-road, like mountain bikey type stuff through trails, you know, that gives me exhilaration and stuff like that. Not cliff jumping because I've never done that, but like I can experience what she's sharing with me as her experience in my body through what like I can create that similar sensation in my body based off of her share. And then I can then understand what she means when she's sharing, you know? So what I'm saying to that is people can come from completely different worlds, but there's still resonance in everything because as humans, there's always going to be those basic symbolic resonant things that stay as a thread. And I think that's another point that I really want to keep present on this podcast too, is that irregardless of your stories that you may share similar or different, there's always like a crossover and there's always an alignment, like no matter what. And like it's possible, and it's I feel like only possible for people to see that alignment and that thread and that connection with their fellow humans when people share their stories and when people like are vulnerable and open up about themselves and like share their unique medicine, their unique keys with other people so that that person can then open up the door for themselves in wherever place, area, portal, dimension, whatever they want to explore. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Totally. I love there's so much like imagery coming through as you describe these things. Like they really do feel like tangible ways to understand things. Like we're just talking in words and ideas, but
Hmm.
somehow we can, yeah, understand them as leading to other things and connecting with other things. And I think that, yeah, that's the point of art too. You know, like to make those things, to manifest those things that we talk about symbolically, and then like, yeah, really represent them.
Hmm. Yeah.
What is the logo for the, or maybe it's not a logo for the podcast, but for your business that you were just talking about? I can't quite remember.
So my logo for my business is it's just this one sigil of pocket of energy of all of the concepts of what I wanted for like my birth work and my work in the world in general, which is like it really speaks to this like portal opening as well. In my bio, I say like keeper of Tiamat's portal. So Tiamat is the earth, and I'm a keeper of the portal of the earth. And I also say that the work that I do as a birth worker, as a woman's worker, is I walk with women through the portal of transformation, and with them and their babies as they transform through the inner portal. So, like the baby's inner portal, the inner world, the inner earth of their mother's womb, to like the outer portal, the outer womb of the earth, which is like the earth is a womb, right? So, the symbol of my like logo is pretty much that, like the inner, or like the earth, and then like this crowning aspect, and like the moving out of like the inner portal to like the external, the inner womb to the outer womb of the earth, and
Wow.
like the light rays coming out from it for me like represent like coming, like you exist within this darkness of the womb, and when you are let out into like the outer womb which has light forms, you're now emitting that eternal, like that internal light that existed when you were inside of that internal womb outwards for everyone to see. So that's like really big symbolism in my logo. And I really wanted to have like the circle aspect of it. I really wanted to have it sort of like look similar to like how an ankh feels, like with the wrapping of the energy And yeah. That's what it represents. I have a little bit of like, I really love the Aboriginal like the Aboriginal Australian like art with the dots. And I really love like spiral symbolism. So there's a little bit of play with like the dots and like my own ancestry from African origins and like indigenous origins of the Caribbean in there. It's like all of that. And like Tashna really did a really good job at at encompassing everything that I was saying that I wanted into one symbol, which was I was saying a lot of things. So she really like made it this concentrated like symbol this
Amazing.
concentrated symbolic representation of like it all. And I'm just like constantly blown away at the fact that she even could do that based off of literally all these things that I was telling her
Yeah.
that seemed
Yeah.
like how like that's so many elements like you know to just zoom it in on one is like she knows what the fuck she's doing.
That's
So yeah.
amazing. Yeah, that is such a skill. Awesome.
Mhm.
Well, I can't wait to go back and look more closely because that sounds, yeah, absolutely amazing and totally like a beautiful symbolic representation of the themes that you've been talking about this entire time. Which I so
Yeah.
do you think have the themes been present for you for a long time now? Like it like 5 years ago or whatever, would you say that there was these common threads that you've always known you were going to be exploring, or is like did one come before the next? Um, in terms of
Okay.
just kind of like putting all the
Mhm.
pieces together.
Yeah, so I guess like the threads have always been in existence from like my birth to how I am now. Like I always knew that I wanted to like walk with pregnant women and their families like since I was in 4th grade.
Wow.
I explained this a little bit on one of the episodes that I have with my friend Emily, but I'll say it a little bit briefly here too. As I used to skip school in in 4th grade because I hated my 4th grade teacher, and I'd stay home and watch all of these like birthing shows on TV, like women giving birth, women preparing for
Oh
birth,
my
women taking
gosh,
their
I think
babies
I
home.
remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go.
And I just remember like this moment, this visceral moment of being like, this is what I came here to do, like to like walk with women and to help babies come onto the planet, like to help guide these souls from the inner womb of the earth to the inner womb of their mother to the outer womb of the earth. Um, and that's just always been like my main goal and focus, like all throughout school. Like I did a bunch of science stuff and went to university for biology because I was like, okay, I need to be an OB to be able to do this. But like, obviously, discover that that's a fucking lie, and that whole system is corrupt, and I don't want to be a part of it. Based off of my own like upbringing with like herbalism and just like ancestral teachings, it's just completely out of alignment. That medical mindset and paradigm is just completely out of alignment with like how I naturally go about um serving people, even communicating with people, just like how I am. And so I left university, um, second year of my bio degree, to explore being a doula, because my sister was telling me, yeah, you should look into this, blah 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 blah. So I like finally looked into it, and then I left and did that for a while. I went to Ecuador and did this doula immersion program where I got to shadow the indigenous pateras, or like the indigenous midwives in Ecuador, and I learned a lot about like their herbalism practices and closing of the bones, and um,
Mm.
just like different ways women give birth in different places. And this was even before like I saw my first birth, like I witnessed my first birth in Ecuador. So it was like a completely different mind frame that I was coming into it with, like when I came back to the quote unquote Western world, like back to Canada, and saw a birth in a hospital here, and then was completely like, absolutely the fuck not. I'm never doing that again. I'm never stepping foot in a hospital for a birth ever again. it was my stand after that, after seeing what
Yeah,
I
wow.
saw. And all throughout when I was a doula, because I was doing primarily like birth center births at that point, like after I'd been like, nah, fuck the hospital. Um, After like throughout that whole process, I've been constantly searching like, oh, like traditional midwifery programs, like, hello, like, is there a traditional midwifery apprenticeship, whatever? Because like I already knew that the midwifery system wasn't what I wanted to pursue either, because I was seeing the similarities and how it was pretty much just like like an OBGYN light, if you will, like a medical practitioner that didn't perform surgery, um, but is presenting themselves as someone who's like a more holistic option when it isn't that, especially in Canada with the licensure and practice and regulation type stuff. So I absolutely didn't want to do that, and I found the RBK school through my friend Adele and signed up for their traditional midwifery program. Like I finally found like a traditional midwifery program, and that's like what I did, and started doing like supporting and witnessing births outside of the system and doing all this women's work stuff. And like the thread has, like, to go back to the original question, I feel like I just basically divulged my entire life story, but to go back to the original question, the thread has always been there. It was just a matter of me taking all of the aspects of the threads of life experiences and teachings that I've picked up throughout my entire life and experience, and just making it super specific to the world of women who are ready to like take that on and who are also swimming in those waters of like birthing outside the system, holistic health, like truly holistic health, earth-based practices and teachings, ancestry, and like really knowing that there's more to this planet and this life experience than like school or medical practitioners or like the scientific community even will share or will even knows about yet. And just really acknowledging and presencing and living through my experience of that quote unquote unknown aspect of life and sharing it with other people so that it becomes known and can be experienced as real for other people and women and families and world the world
Mhm.
or whatever. Yeah, so
Yeah, oh my gosh.
I don't know if you wanted
Thank you
like
for sharing all
specific
that.
threads. Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. I don't know if you wanted specific threads, but I think the main pillar threads in my life has always been like speaking, like expressing myself verbally through my voice has always been a thing, even though like I mentioned previously, like, oh, my mom was like, yeah, you can't say all this stuff, whatever. But it's just always been a running theme in my life. Like I've always done like been chosen to do like leadership stuff and like, oh, go do a presentation for like the school and like talk to people and blah 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 blah. And like even in school presentations, like it was just very natural for me to just talk about shit that I find interesting. And I sort of like hid that aspect of myself away again, moving into university while I was doing all the science stuff. And then it's like this me gradually coming back to that part of myself and like verbally expressing myself and all of that stuff. So speaking has been a common thread. The herbalism and earth connection stuff has always been a thread in my life, just based off of my upbringing being Caribbean. It's like the herbs, the bush tea, all of that has, it's like always a part of your life. The ancestry aspect, which is another part of it, is always a part of your lived experience. Like everyone acknowledges their ancestors no matter how, whatever religion they believe in the Caribbean, like everyone knows ancestry and duppy like ghost spirits to be true, and that's how we live. So that's always been a common thread. And the birth stuff and being interested in the women's work and like, you know, like women's sexual health and women's body connection and sovereignty has always been a part of my life. Um, yeah, I think those are like the main four threads that are coming to me that lead into all of the work that I do in the world right now in terms of
Mhm.
being a birth attendant and doing womb work and womb massage and curating yoni steams and curating different herbal blends and teas and like my community work in terms of like events and women's circles and like presenting and like teaching and creating, even like writing my little newsletter stuff. Like it feels really nice and nourishing. It's like a little journal entry that everyone gets to see for me. So it's
Yeah.
always, all of it has always been there. And like now it's just being even more publicly presented to everyone outside of my main squeezes that I normally kiki with on a day-to-day
Yeah.
basis. So yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, totally. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I love how, yeah, it's very like the way that you just shared, it's very easy to retrace the threads. And I think it's always so important to recognize like you had to be so diligent, or so like maybe we'll use the word courageous again, to keep pursuing what's actually for you around all of these
Mhm.
things, or like what's actually your true gifts in all of these realms, because it's so like easier, like the it's set out for us to kind of, oh, you want to do this one thing, you want to attend birth, you go to medical school and you go to like it's, they want to put you in the box of like that's what this means, here
Yeah.
you go. And I think like you hear so many people's stories of like you, as young people, like we totally, I believe, like know our threads, and like depending on how, whatever, how much freedom or how much experience you had to like explore these things, they're like present for you
Mhm.
to a certain degree, and so you
Exactly.
know, and you're like, oh, okay, so I'll go to school and I'll study this thing because I was told that like that's how I do this, like that is kind of
Yeah.
like what makes sense. But it's up to us to have to actually recognize like, but is this what I'm meant to do to serve this thing? Like here's the concept of
Yep.
serving women, but
Mhm.
here's what I actually need to do about this, me, like, and you, Ninneru.
Yeah.
Like, you
Mhm.
serve women in your specific way. And I think that's what I'm just like so like obsessed with in this time of people getting back to their most authentic way to serve anything, like whatever it
Yep.
is, so that everyone is their like unique birth keeper, and you're going to find your unique
Exactly.
women who need your unique service. It's not about having the biggest birth business. Like that's
Exactly.
actually insane. Like and because then you would have to actually like be dumbing yourself like to be more whatever palpable, or like
Mhm.
attract more people in a general way, you would have to be
Yeah,
like
in a
dumbing down
non-specific
the
way.
most,
Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly, and
your
that's what
most
I was
authentic thing.
doing. That's what I was doing when I was working in the system as a doula. I was dumbing myself, well, for lack of a better term, I was muting myself. I was hiding my voice. I was hiding myself, hiding who I actually was, which like that like I had some pretty like some decently aligned clients or like women that I was working with as I was a doula, but I was still not fully me, you know?
Hmm.
And it's like getting acquainted and not even like getting acquainted because everybody knows who they are. It's just like a matter of like accepting and expressing who you are, in my opinion. Anyway,
Hmm.
um, so that acceptance and that like that now expression of that is like now I'm finally like showing people like, hey, like this is who I am. This is what I believe, and this is, and when you share that, bringing it back to the key stuff, like when you share that authentic person, that authentic who you are, that authentic what you're here to do in the world, that authentic what you're even passionate about, it like that shows people, that gives people a window into like your soul, like a window into you, and from a really authentic space to where there is that genuine authentic connection with them, because there can be that resonance because there's no filter of looking bad or no filter of I'm going to say the wrong thing, or there's no filter of like fakeness. in it, you know? Like you're
Mhm.
looking at
Mhm.
something dead on or a person dead on as who they are. And yeah. That's what it is. And
Yeah.
to speak to like the like being connected to these threads of what we already know that we're passionate about or already know that we love doing as like as we're kids, and if we're connected to that and in touch with that multiple times throughout our lives, it's like I talk to a lot of people and they're like, yeah, like I don't know that really what do I want to do with my life. And it's like, I think that you do know what you want to do with your life and you're not admitting it to yourself, you know? Like everybody knows what they genuinely are passionate about and love doing and want to like what inspires them when they want to like help people in doing, you know? Everyone has that like spark within themselves. It's about admitting what that is and pursuing it, in my opinion, you know? So I don't subscribe or believe in the, oh, I don't know what I'm doing with my life idea. Like, you know what you're doing with your life right now because you're living your life, and you know what you are here to do. It's a matter of admitting it and acting on it.
Yep.
And
And then
yeah.
having that courage or having that almost like devotion to finding out
Mhm.
what it actually means, because like I yeah, I think what I'm like trying to share the most now about like the creative process is like a similar thing. Like we have a creative impulse, like if we have kind of like a soul like learning impulse, there might be one in the same, but like the creative impulse of what we want to create as well, and through
Mhm.
what medium, I also think is like one of these things that like everyone has it, and it's just a matter of like, yeah, finding a channel for it to be expressed. But like it can start with anything. Like it doesn't have to start with what you think it's going to mean in the world, or
Exactly.
who you think
Mhm.
it's going to serve, or what it's even going to look like. It could literally start with like, I'm feeling really compelled by the color red. Like I just like, you know, like it can be
Literally
this one
that.
thing, and so
Yeah.
like what is that? Yeah, like, and just keep following that, because then just any sort of like movement towards, I'm following this
Mhm.
thing, as opposed to kind of like chaos of just like random like doing like, yeah,
Exactly.
who knows, or like following what other people do or whatever, that's going to get you somewhere different. You
Yeah.
know, and then it will absolutely reveal itself slowly but surely, and totally maybe go down the wrong quote unquote path, but then you
Yeah.
realize, oh, but that's because I needed to see this
Exactly.
whatever key message of that realm, and then
Mhm.
come back and bring that learning into this. Like, yeah, it's just kind of this like yeah, what you
It's
think,
how
like the
life
admitting it.
goes. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's how life goes, you know, like it's always a series of actions that reap certain results that you then use whatever you harvested from that experience to then go act on the next experience and plant new seeds. You know, it's all that, and you know what you're doing, you know, like you don't need people to necessarily tell you like
Hmm.
what you need to
Hmm.
do. Like it's all there. Like you already know. And the like as you were we were both saying now, like it's the admitting, you know? Like you just have to admit it. Like just say it, you know? Just say what you want, just say what you want to do. And it's okay. It's okay if you feel like, "Oh, I don't know." Like admit that too. And then explore what you
Hmm.
do know, you know? Because
Hmm.
there's really
Hmm.
nothing in the I don't know. Like, okay, explore what you do know and what you are passionate about then.
Yeah,
Then now you have an
totally,
action
because you're doing
step.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because even if you're doing like the thing that you hate, like, okay, like, can find the opposite of what you're doing then. Like, you know, like everything can be the
Exactly.
information that you need. Yeah.
Exactly, and it's a matter of seeing that, and that's, like, the really big concept of even this podcast. Again, is, like, allowing people to see those threads in their life through the stories that are being shared and create that inspiration for them to then act on whatever they need to act on in their particular paths or whatever they need to realize in their particular paths to, like, assist them in walking on
Hmm.
this planet Earth and impacting all the people that they impact in their life. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
So beautiful. And just like we're going to start getting to the point where there's so many people who are doing that, who are following their most authentic way to walk in
Mhm.
the world. And we're going to have so much like just abundant, beautiful, like new ways to serve people. Like, yeah, like almost like new modalities probably will like be springing up because they're not going
Mhm.
to be boxed in. They're going to start being like, this is specifically what I needed to do to serve this person. And it looked like
Yeah.
a mix of all of these things. And like now it's this, like
Yeah.
it's going to be so, yeah,
That's how
I
things
see that.
grow
It's
and
like,
develop. That's how things grow and develop, and I see that for the future too. And that's always how it's been. Like if you look at these practices like TCM or even like Ayurveda and stuff like that, it doesn't stay stagnant to like one particular moment in time. It's constantly growing based off of the generations and what people learn and add to it. And that's how life and wisdom and knowledge and whatever is passed on all the time, you know? And it's only through
mm-hmm,
sharing and experiencing that this stuff occurs. And I that's really my vision for the planet. It's for everyone to be like walking in their authentic expression and doing what they authentically are aligned with doing and just like living that and sharing that with others. And it's like I'm just seeing it as this like big circle spiral of just people just doing their absolute like what they're most passionate about. And they're just so, because when you do that stuff, like it fills you up with so much love and just like excitement.
mm-hmm.
Like imagine that feeling being embodied by everyone on the planet 24 fucking 7. Like, you know how fucking epic that would be? That would be so dope. So
Yeah.
that's what I want. That's what I want. And hopefully, um not hopefully, and these stories are a catalyst for that within both the speakers that I'm inviting on, myself, and for whoever's listening to
Mm-hmm.
explore all of those worlds of possibility, of passion, of connection within them that they might have not even have discovered without someone sharing their story about it, you know? So, yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And just like celebrating these things. Because keeps coming up for me now is like the to talk about these things and like finding the path and like finally like devoting yourself to your passion. Not an easy path. Not gonna like become this like sunshine and rainbows right away where like everything
Yep.
makes sense and
Yeah,
abundant resources flow. No, actually quite the
exactly.
opposite. And I think it's of course like that's why it's actually a rare thing. That's why we're like talking about this as if it's yet to exist. Like
Mhm.
it's a challenge right now to move through the very rigid structures that we've been told things have to
Exactly.
be or like
Because
follow
it's
or
not
like
the natural way of human beings operating on the planet, you know? It's not natural. Like the systems that I don't even want to say we've created because I don't know that the people who created those systems are even people A or you know, like I don't even know if they're human to like cuz like what they're inundating is not human. Like it's not
mm-hmm,
in alignment with humanity or the earth.
mm-hmm,
And for me, it's all about getting back in alignment with our mother, our the womb that we are swimming in, the earth, you know, which is going back to like the key the key stuff again. But it's all about getting back into alignment with that. And when we get back into alignment with how this planet naturally operates, we get back into alignment with how we naturally operate because we are a part of the earth. So that is the overarching theme and message right now
yep.
with
And it's
all of
amazing and
that.
it's going to take these most passionate people like first and foremost our passion needs to be to confront the things that have kept us from doing this, like, and I see
Mm,
that as like we're like like pathfinders and like way
yep.
makers for people to follow, because at this point it's not just an easy road to, okay, I'm
It's
going to do my
not.
passion and this is this, yeah,
Mhm.
whatever. like
Like
it's almost like we are taking it upon ourselves to be like, yeah, I'm passionate about making sure that we can all like come back
exactly.
home to these things, and that's a like it's a
Mhm.
huge it's a bridge time, you know. And so
Mhm.
even there it is again, like you're bridging these worlds of the spiritual and the everyday and the this portal and this port, like all of these things. It really does feel like we're in a time of like we are the ones who can see both, and
Yep.
so we can bridge the way and actually like forge the path for all of
Yeah.
these things to happen. And I really do hope that
Mhm.
like the future generations recognize that.
Yeah.
That's what it,
I
yeah.
I really do hope so too, and it definitely it takes a lot to it's it takes a lot to swim against the waters, like the synthetic waters that have been created by these non-human entities, because I honestly don't believe that they're human. that that
The
uh
formaldehyde waters.
yeah, the formaldehyde waters of what has been set for us to swim in, and to then go into the waters of the natural earth and swim in those waters, you know. It feels easier to swim in the natural waters, right? And when you go into the formaldehyde waters is when formaldehyde waters is when you feel sucked dry, in my opinion and from my experience. So in a way, like, it feels easy to swim in the, like, with the current of the formaldehyde waters, just because, like, everyone, quote unquote, everyone's doing it, and you know, like, it's
Hmm.
like the path seems clearer. But ultimately, when
Hmm.
you step on, like, out and into the path that seems unclear but is cleaner, which is like a whole, like, that's like a really interesting, like, flip mode inversion too. How, like, the dirty waters seem cleaner or clearer because the path is set up in those waters, whereas, like, the cleaner waters seem like unclearer because there isn't a written path in those waters. You create that path in that waters. And would you rather have someone else create something for you, or would you rather create something for yourself specifically tailored to what you exactly want, right? And
Hmm.
me personally, I'd rather, like, I came here with the divine power of will and action and creation, and I'm gonna fucking use the powers that God gave me to create my fucking life. And fuck if I let someone else do that for me. Fuck no, you know?
Amen.
So yeah, swim in the
Yeah.
juicy, clean waters of the earth and step out of the formaldehyde waters.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. We promise.
It is. It's way more fun. It's fun, and I feel like the only part that really seems hard about it, or really feels hard about it, is when you have to step into those formaldehyde waters, because obviously that's how society has been structured in a mainstream way as of right now. And for me, it's about, you know, the way, like, water works is that, for example, you drop some formaldehyde in other clean water, like, that formaldehyde will then blend with the other clean water. And if there's enough of the clean water, the formaldehyde would is becomes a non-factor. So my intention and stand is that we as beings become this clean waters for to swim in, and when there's enough of us of these clean waters, the formaldehyde eventually dissipates and dissolves and is non-existent, and then and we're all together living naturally in accordance to the earth, instead of just, you know, one or two people, or not even one or two people. And instead of the few, it becomes the many are now
Yeah.
fully living in this way and being
Yeah.
in this
Exactly.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like if nothing else, like that is what sharing a story can be. It's that like we are here and we are doing this and you're not alone. And so
Mhm.
no matter what the story is, actually, we can we can create those bridges together, and that's like at the heart of this, I would say, and just like the gift of sharing the way that you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty complete. I think that y'all got to hear a lot about me and my life in this, and
Yeah.
about like my views on the world. Obviously, you'll hear more about them as this podcast progresses and grows and is birthed again. Um, so yeah, thank you so much, Meghan, for even thinking to do this style of an episode. I love it so much, and I feel like if I had just done it on my own, not as much as what I said would have came out. And again, that's the beauty in connection and sharing and collaborating with the wonderful, beautiful humans around you. And this has been amazing. Thank you so much for listening, everyone, and for being here, Meghan. And yeah, do you have anything
It's my
else to say
pleasure.
before we head
Thank
out?
you. No, just that I love you so much, and I wish you all the best with this work, and like wish you so many blessings. And I
Thank
know that
you.
it's gonna be so impactful to so many.
Thank you so much. And on that note, ashe, and see you on the next episode, everyone. If you loved what you heard today, please let me know by giving the podcast some love in the reviews, liking, commenting, and sharing with someone you love as well. As always, too, you can connect with me on Instagram at Key of Life Birthkeeper, and with any of my guests with their information and details located in the description. Until next time, ashe.